Hey, 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 everybody, listen. This is Elder Ebony, and I am back again. I know y'all probably are saying this girl has been live, live, and live. Okay. Like, I am live again tonight, and I am back again to have another conversation with you all about the Build Her Conference 2026. It is about to be something fierce. Do you hear me? The Build Her Conference 2026. We have been talking all week, all month. Listen, and we're going to continue to talk about it until such time as it is actually finally here. I am excited about each of our lives. I'm excited about our guests that we have to come on that will be a part of the Build Her Conference. Listen, tonight we are talking with someone that you all definitely want to hear from. I mean, you are going to be amazed at the information, the nuggets, all of what's going to be dropped on tonight. And so if if you are not ready, if you haven't thought about your finances in a kingdom perspective, right? Because that's all we've been talking about: kingdom perspectives, kingdom principles, right? Kingdom strategy, goals, kingdom direction. If you are not ready tonight to hear about kingdom principles regarding finances, then this may not be the life for you. Okay. I want to make sure that we have the information that is needed for us to steward well. For us to steward well. And so that's what Build Her Conference 2026 is all about. It is about us sacrificing, us surrendering everything, right? Surrendering our will for God's will so that we can walk out loud our kingdom, our identity in Jesus Christ. That's it. That's all. That's the whole story. Okay. So if you are here tonight, I want you to go ahead and do me a favor. I want you to say hello in the comments so that way we know that we are not here by ourselves. I want you to say hello, and then I want you to click the share button. I want you to share this live out to your friends and then tag 3 people in the comments so that way they can be here tonight and they can get the nuggets that we are dropping. So listen, I joined the Atlanta Black Chamber about this time last year, and I had the opportunity to meet a couple of amazing women, some dope entrepreneurs that are on their own journey. They are living according to godly principles, and they are in the marketplace for helping other entrepreneurs get the tools, the techniques, the strategies, the tips, all of what they need in order to be successful, right? In order to build a profitable and a sustaining business. Good evening, Elder Victoria. Thank you so much for joining. And so this young lady that I met, well, we haven't actually met in person yet. However, I have seen her work within the chamber. I've seen a few of her messages and how she is equipping women, men, children, right, to ensure that they have what they need in order to steward finances well and then build legacy. And so I'm excited about that. Being a grandmother, being a mother, setting up my children and my grandchildren in a way that poverty is not their portion, because that's something that we don't talk about in the African American community. And so that's a part of our conversation tonight. So listen, without further ado, I would like to present to some, introduce to others, none other than Sheena Robinson. She is the Chief Visionary Officer of the Financial Parent Academy. Listen, Sheena, hey girl.
Hey, I'm so excited, Elder Presswood, to be before everyone tonight and just be able to share some things to help them, in their finances, just in their personal journey. So I just want to first say thank you for this opportunity, and definitely know it was God ordained, and you're doing great things for the kingdom. And I just pray that God continues to increase your territory and you continuously prosper in all the things that you do.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And I receive that as well. Thank you so much. So, listen, I know I gave just a brief introduction on who you are, but I think you can do a much better job. Tell the people who you are, what you do, who you do it for, why you do it, what made you start to do it, all the things.
Yes, yes, yes. So, like so many people here in Atlanta, I am not originally from Atlanta. I am originally from Arkansas. I actually came here in 2007, 3 days after graduating college. Most people were
Okay.
like, "What brought you to Atlanta?" I thought it was the Black Mecca. It is the Black Mecca. I had an aunt who lived here, and just as a little girl, I knew I wanted to do something bigger than just being a small town girl, because I come from a small town. And I just wanted to experience life on the level that God spoke to me and told me. And so I came here in 2007. I started working for corporate shortly after. And after working there, God introduced me to an individual who took me to a presentation to learn about finances. And after watching that presentation, I was like, nobody didn't teach me this when I was growing up. And you know
Right.
what? If somebody would have taught me this while I was growing up, I probably would have been way farther ahead than I was at that
Mhm.
time. And so it was at that time when the vision started to form about really going out into the community and teaching people, specifically our people, about financial literacy and how it could change our lives and how we should change our perspective and not be so caught up with what our past has said about us in regards to slavery and just the bondage that we've seen in the past, but more from a financial empowerment standpoint, wanting
Mhm.
people to see that we have those same opportunities, but we have to change our mindset first. And so from there, I entered the financial industry in 2008, and I started teaching adults financial literacy.
Mm.
And all I kept hearing was, I wish somebody would have told me this when I was younger. And, I felt the same way. That's why, I joined. And I just kept hearing it too much. And I'm not the type of person, if I see something that need to be fixed, I'm going to be the change I want to see. And
Mhm.
so literally God just started speaking to me, and he said, I want you to put together a system for parents, teaching them how to raise financially successful children starting from birth. And literally that started my journey to write my first book, which is Financial Parenthood, The Keys to Raising a Rich Kid. And in that book, I talk about, what type of products you should be investing in as soon as your children are born. And then I go to talk about what type of financial topics you need to talk to your children about at every age level. And so I wrote the book in 2016. It came out, it was a hit. But God came back to me. He said, people need accountability. The book is fine, but I got something bigger that I want you to do for me. And that's when Financial Parent Academy was birthed. Shortly after, a few months later, after the book came out, we'll be celebrating 10 years in this
Wow.
August. Super excited about that, and just the works that we've been able to do to help people transform their lives. And every day being able to engage in workshops and appointments with people and just seeing how families are being transformed is truly amazing. And I'm just so grateful to God to be able to do something that I love every day and be able to make a difference, not only in my own family, but in the community.
Yeah, that is amazing. 10 years, like that is something to celebrate for sure. 10 years in business, especially around the financial industry area, because normally we don't be trying to hear much about what to do with our money, right? But to know that you have been at it for that long and have been helping parents and families build legacy, I think is amazing and commendable. Um, how now I know people may want to know how has it been helping trying to change the mindset for a lot of parents and just people in general around money and like spending and how we value a dollar.
Absolutely. So, I get this question a lot because, especially in our community, when I first started my nonprofit, let me just start there. People were like, "How are you going to make money off this?" And a
Right.
nonprofit does not mean no profit, right? And so I had some creative ways and things that I do to be profitable. But to your question about, the mindset, one of the things I talk about in my book, because before I even talk money with you, I got to get your mindset together. We got to
Mhm.
revamp that mindset. I want to know, what's your relationship with money? Did your parents even teach you about money? Do you got debt? Like, I need to, you at the doctor's office when you come to me. We're going to do a
Mhm.
whole financial checkup. I need to know where the mindset at, because by the time you leave me, I need to help transform your mind, as it talks about in Romans 12:2, without being renewed. Because most of us, especially in the Black community, we didn't grow up with our parents teaching us how to make our money work for us, or even
Mhm.
talking about entrepreneurship. And so, to answer your question in real detail, the true answer is keeping it real with people,
Mhm.
being compassionate about what they're going through, and showing them that someone cares and someone is willing to help them and be a partner along the way. A lot of times people don't get started. First off, they're ashamed. And I like to let people know there's nothing to be ashamed about. We've all experienced life. We've all had bad credit. We've all been broke. We've all had this journey. And when you just talk real and from the heart, I've seen that people are just more receptive to listen to you. And right now with these times, like, people want to change so bad. They want a better life. And so I find it a better climate now than it was in the beginning, that people want this information. Now in the beginning, we were kind of in a okay society, not all this tariff stuff and all that going on and raising the prices. So people were more chill, and back then it was kind of harder,
Mhm.
but as you stay with something and you're consistent with something over the years, it started to pick up, and I'm one of those people. I don't give up on people. And so
Yeah.
it truly has been just being compassionate, sharing with people what it really means to have wealth. And I don't just do it from a financial standpoint, it's a holistic point of view, because if your health is your wealth, so we got to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that. And being financially healthy is definitely one of those things. But really following what God has purposed you to do is really my mission, for people to see. Especially a lot of people, they don't want to talk about money, like I said, because they don't either know how money works, they're ashamed. And I don't want that to be people's story. I want people to see what God can do for you when you seek Him first. He's going to bring you the tools, the resources, and everything that you need so that you can be successful. And so, really revamping my program the last 2 years and putting God at the center. I've
Yeah.
always been a Christian, but sometimes people are like, "Oh, do you really want to bring God to the marketplace?" Well, He's going to be at the center of my marketplace.
Mhm.
And I truly believe that when I honor him, he gives me, the tools, the resources, and the people to help transform people's lives. And it's just really been a word of mouth after that. And once someone's life been changed, they just tell other people. And it kind of becomes a community, and it
Mhm.
becomes easier to get parents to buy into the concept.
Yes. And I mean, you are absolutely right about, Romans 12 and 2 being at the like core of what you are referring to, because, you know, anything with money for sure requires a change of mindset, because I can remember, like, I had a bad relationship with money. Like, and I'm sure I'm not by myself. Am I by myself? Anybody out there in the comments had a bad relationship with money? Um, my thing was, listen, I would buy shoes, bags, clothes, and not just within budget, but if I wanted, a very expensive name brand, shoe or bag or what have you, if I had to beg, borrow, and steal, not necessarily steal for sure, not literally steal, because I'm not a thief, but if I had to, borrow money from somebody, or be late paying a bill or what have you, just so I can get the thing that I wanted to get, like, that was my relationship with money. And it wasn't until I read in the scripture where it talks about, if we don't align ourselves with God and align ourselves with his word, how, basically our pockets will be like we have holes in them. Like, the money will come, but we won't be able to keep it. And I had to look at my life and say, okay, yeah, I'm not aligned, in terms of purpose. I'm not doing God's will. I'm not being a good steward over the money that he's given me, over the resources that come my way. And I wonder why I can't keep any of it. But once I read that scripture and just started to make the right choices and change my mindset as well, that definitely assisted. So you're absolutely right about, in order to build, we have to first start with our mindset. Is that kind of what, like, how, in terms of building her, what does that mean to you? Is that strictly mindset, or how does finances play into that?
So when I think about build her, it really is. I thought of it from a standpoint of being an entrepreneur. Okay.
Mhm.
And how we go about building a business. It's just building ourselves up, right? We need to have a vision. We need to have a mission for our lives, right? Our brand and reputation, our character, what are we saying? How are we coming off? Our communication style, investment and capital that we need. That's our education skills, our health, our mindsets, cash flow. That's things that we need to be able to really run a successful business. I think about our sleep, our nutrition, and it also goes to the financial literacy that you learn as well, as how far that cash flow is going to help you throughout your life. And so when I think about build her, it really is from, taking risks, because in your finances, a lot of people, they work paycheck to paycheck, and that risk one in entrepreneurship, are you really investing your money in things properly that's going to set you up for a better future? And so when I think about build her and how finances play into that, building her again goes back, first off, I'm going to make a decision that I
Mhm.
want to make a change in my life. I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to do that vision board, whether, you might do a vision board, you might do a purpose board, but have define what it is that you want out of life.
Mhm.
Sometimes even when I do my academy with the children K through 12, my first class is on a vision board that we do. And the reason why I do that, because, you work so hard for money, and sometimes people, they just feel like, what am I working for? They need to see a visual. And so I encourage people to do that vision board, and then you know what you're working toward, and then you do a budget, right? If I want to get something, how much is that going to cost you? A lot of
Mhm.
times we just working for stuff and we don't even know how much it costs us. And so when it comes to building us, we have to have a strategic plan, right?
Mhm.
And when we have a strategic plan for our life and our finances, then we can start, how a lot of us women, we like to check stuff off. Well, you can start checking stuff off once you put the plan in purpose, because as it states, without the vision, we perish. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really strategically encourage women to know what you want out of life, and then let's get this plan, and then get someone that you can trust and partner with to make sure you reach your goals and your dreams, and consistently work on your habits. You know, if there's an area you struggle with, as you talked about buying stuff, that's impulse buying. Most people
Yes.
impulse buying, walking in. I'm supposed to go to the dollar store. Oh, it's just $1. I'm just going in to get one thing. I don't came out 15 things because it's just $1. We have to
Yes.
stop. We have to stop it, right? And so that is, we got to be more conscious, self-aware. And when we know better, we can do better. And that's why, sometimes the card ain't always good to go in the dollar store, wherever store. Put a set amount of cash in your hand. And when it's gone, it's gone. I can't spend anymore. And that's one way to eliminate this impulse buying and, spending beyond our means when we know we got the light bill over here we need to pay. But we see
Mm-hmm.
fly shoes on the shelf. That'll help us have more self-control.
Yes, and I think having that accountability partner, like what you're talking about, because listen, some of us need an accountability partner to help us not, as you said, impulse buy, because having a budget and having it written but not following the budget, I guess writing it down is the first step, right, to actually creating a budget, but then following the budget is the next step. And so I think you said something very key, which is sometimes go to the bank and take out X number of dollars. And you know what? This is what I'm spending this week. And when this is gone, that's it. Like, I don't have anything else to spend, because it's so easy to just, when you swipe it, you spend $1 here, $5 at Starbucks, and 10 over here. And as you said, you go in Walmart and you have a list. I'm only gonna, spend this $30, and you look up, you get to the register, and it's $230. And
Okay.
so how does that work in today's time, Sheena? And I'm sure, you have maybe had to speak to this, or maybe even revamp your program to speak to all of these, like, buy here, pay later type, the Affirm, the Afterpay, the Klarna, the Sezzle, right? Because we get to the register and we don't have the money, the actual cash on hand to buy the thing that we want. But society has set it up so easy now that I can just Klarna. And, I still can walk out the door with the tangible thing in my hand right now. So what are you telling your clients about utilizing those platforms? And hey, Apostle, thank you so much for joining. Hey, KJ, we got Prophet Ebony on the line. We have Miss Warren on the line. I think she may know both of us, because she said, hey, ladies, but hey.
Hey, everybody. Um, so to your point, Elder Presswood, the first thing is education
Mhm.
and the rule of 72. When you come see me, we're going to first talk about the rule of 72, and we're going to talk about this interest and compounded interest, okay? And
Mhm.
how you thinking that, you're just paying this small amount today, and then, especially when you're buying these homes and these cars and these credit cards, let's look at how much you're actually paying back.
Mhm.
And most people, unless you put a visual in front of them, they don't understand the power in that. So that's my first thing, is that I'm going to educate you to help you understand how the power of interest works. And then secondly, when it comes to, these I'm not going to say they're all bad, these apps, use them responsibly. And one
Yeah.
thing, a lot of people, it it's a twofold with me, because you got to know thyself. So if you're a person and you're not willing to make more money, maybe you need to get a side job, hustle. You got a little hustle in you, then you might can get you, a side gig and be able to make extra money. Because I'm not the financial person who tells you, oh, you got to always not have what you want. But I will tell you, if you're going to get what you want, you need to make more money. And so we need to look at some
Mhm.
ways that you can make more money so you can have the things that you want to have. Now, some people, they just like, I don't want to do all that. I'm okay with just my 9 to 5 or just a little bit that I'm doing. Now, if that's the case, then we need to look at some things that we need to cut. And when it comes to paying these apps. I know some people get these apps and don't pay them back. And that's not being a good steward. We want to be able, if we're taking people money, we need to get in the process of paying people back. And
Yes.
that, again, it goes back to budgeting. It goes back into living within our means. And if you're not willing to go out and hustle to buy the things that you want, then we need to reevaluate our spending. How much is going over to, your fun account is what I call it. We have different accounts. We have investment accounts, we have fund accounts, we have emergency accounts. But how much are you putting out of your paycheck toward that fund account? And that will help you when you are using these apps. Are you allocating money in the fund account to go ahead and get what you want, but that's going to be the account that you're using to pay these apps back? And so it's either we're cutting things out to make way for things that we want, or I'm going to encourage you to make money, and I'll look at some ways with you to help you make more money.
Now, see, y'all, I can't allow her to tell us no more because I don't want her to give away all the tips, all the tools, all the resources she already gave. She dropped nuggets already, compound interest and somebody other kind of. Listen, we will all be learning together on March 14th at the Build Her Conference 2026 about how we can be better stewards over the money and the resources that the Lord has given us, right? Like you have to save. That's right, Apostle. You have to save some, right? Because if we don't, then not only for emergencies, but even there are people out there that are assigned to us, right? And we won't be able to be the blessing that the Lord has intended for us to be, blessing other people if we are not being a good steward over the money that He's given us, right? If we're spending every dollar and every dime that we get, whether if it's on, like you said, the apps, the fun account, the travel account, like, if we're spending it all, then that puts us in a situation where we can't be the blessing to other people that the Lord has called us to be. And so I think that is so important. So I know that, people hear you talking about being the financial guru and how you have your business, the Financial Parent Academy. How did you get there? Like, what's your story and your relationship with money that led you to a place to know like this was your purpose and this is how you are supposed to help the kingdom? And your camera is off. It seems like we may be having some technical difficulties right now with Miss Sheena. But again, if you all are in the Atlanta area, we invite you to be a part of the Build Her Conference 2026. It is on Saturday, March 14th at 11 a.m. right on the southwest side of Atlanta, 2636 Fairburn Road, right off of Fairburn and Campbellton Road. 11 a.m. Listen, we have some amazing speakers. If you missed the live, we had Prophet Ebony. If you missed that live last night, she was here last night with us. Go back and check out the live. We had Lady Nikisha Fleming who was with us on last week. If you missed the live, go back. She talked to us about building her from a mental health perspective, a licensed clinical social worker. So she will be with us as well. And then tonight we had Sheena Robinson who was with us, and she is the financial analyst. Will be able to give you tools and resources and processes and things that you can utilize in your daily life. You will be able to actually leave the conference with the information that you need in order to in order to to spend well, in order to save well, right? And in order to plan well from a financial standpoint. We want to make sure that we are utilizing our money in the way that promotes and advances the kingdom. Yes, Apostle, you missed Prophet Ebony last night, dropped gems. So go back and check out the live. All right, Miss Sheena, I see that you are back. And I was asking, people like to be able to hear not just that you've learned the tips and the strategies that you have told us about, but how, what happened in your life that led you to become a financial analyst, a financial consultant. Like, what was your relationship with money like, and what transformation did the Lord make in your life to put you on a path of not just building yourself, but then building others?
So absolutely. It's quite a bit to unpack, but I'm just going to share a few things. So the first thing is, growing up, I don't fault my parents for not really understanding money. I knew savings. I knew how to write a check because I would watch my mom. But my mom, she actually built my credit, and I had a high credit score, but I didn't get taught how to keep that credit score. So I was one of the people who fell into that credit card trap, come to the university and get this t-shirt, get this card, and thinking it's free money. And baby, you got to pay that money back. And so, that was the first thing that was eye-opening for me, is that debt trap that I was not aware of. And she did her part, but I didn't know how to manage that. And then I would say another thing, life lesson is when you're working for other people, and living from check to check, and you're not, you know, understanding you're not paid what you're worth. And some of us, we don't understand that there is a way out. And a lot of that, I was doing that, and God was calling me to hire. And it wasn't until God spoke to me and I stepped out on faith that I had to depend on God to be the provider, that God started to send the resources and the people to help elevate me to where he wants me to be. And, that was another eye opener for me. And then I would just say, because I'll say this, money comes and goes, and we can't have a lack mentality behind it. Some people, we don't want to spend because we're like, I just got this, but no, that when you're doing it for the Lord, he's going to give it back to you. And that was one thing. And then another lesson was when, it's time to tithe, or even if it was time to tip somebody, even if you don't really have, but if the spirit tells you to give, then give. And I always was receiving tenfold back when I did that. And so, in the spirit of giving with a cheerful heart, God blessed me. And, it helped me to want to give even more. And I'll just say here recently, and I'll share more about this at the conference, but your health is your wealth. And I keep going back to that because I'll share more of my story later. But I will say, without your health, you can't do any of this. And you have to have money. If you get down and out, you still got to pay your bills. Life goes on. And so how are you going to be able to do all that? And so we will talk about, ways to make sure that you have money you can pull from when times are hard. And so, those are just some of the things in my life that, I share with others because, like I said, I like to be authentic with people. I like to be straightforward with people and let them know how good God is. But my biggest thing to people, I'm teaching money, like I told you, from a holistic standpoint. But the first thing I always say, seek ye first. Because when you seek God first, all these things that we want, materialistic things, you can get them. But don't put the money in the front, because the money is not the source. It's the resource that the source has given us to live here on earth. And so, those are just some of the things that, I'll share for now, but I hope I answered your question.
Yes, listen. If y'all didn't hear anything else, the two things she said for sure is Money is not the source. Money is the resource. God is the source. And so when we are seeking, and you know what? It's like we have all been connected, because last night we talked about Matthew 6 and 33, how we seek first the kingdom of God, right? And then everything else will be added unto us. And you came on here tonight and said the exact same thing. So clearly we are all aligned, right? God is the source. The money is the resource. And when we seek after him, when our faith is in him, when our trust is in him, right? Then, the Bible says that then he will open up the windows of heaven, right? And pour us out blessings that we won't have room enough to receive. But we have to first be obedient, right? And you talked about tithing. That was the next thing that you talked about that is so important. When we pay our tithes, when we give God, when he blesses us, because our jobs, the money that we get, it all belongs to him anyway, right? And so when we give him back the 10%, that's all he asks. We get to keep the 90, right? He asks us for 10% of what he has given us. And when we're obedient, and when we really understand that tithing is more about obedience than it is anything else, it really is about us being obedient to the word of God. That's when we will begin to see overflow, abundance, right, in our lives, when we're activating our faith. Because my mentor is on here now, and she talks all the time about faith is the currency of the kingdom, right? And so when we are utilizing our faith, and when we are being obedient to the principles and to the word of God and the concepts and all of what God has laid out in his word for us to follow, that's when we then see the blessings of God and the overflow of God flowing in our lives. And so listen, this is just a tad bit of what you will get at the Build Her Conference 2026. We are looking for you to be in the building. The link is in the comment section on how you can get your ticket to be in the room on Saturday, March 14th at 11 a.m. Sheena, are there any final encouraging words that you want to leave for people tonight?
Yes, this is your season of elevation. This is the season for you to do what God is calling you to do. It's funny you talked about obedience. This is truly the season to be obedient.
Yes.
You're going to miss out on what God has for you if you don't get it in this season. And so I just want to encourage you to be in the place on March 14th and receive your blessing. And let this be the year that you allow God to elevate you and live the life that you were destined to live, and watch God's promises come to pass.
Yes, this is the season of elevation. And in order for us to elevate, we have to be obedient. We have to be willing to die to ourselves daily, right? We have to be willing to be on the altar of sacrifice. We have to surrender our will for God's will. And we have to do the work, right? We have to work on, like we said already, mentally, emotionally. We have to work on our souls, right? All of those things are required in order for us to receive the elevation. Because if we don't, Prophet Ebony talked about last night, the demolition, right? Building her is about demolishing all of what we thought was right, our own wills, our desires, right? It's about demolishing the house that we built, and then rebuilding the house that the Lord has designed for us. And that includes from a financial standpoint. So I am excited about all that's going to happen at the Build Her Conference 2026. Thank you so much, Sheena, for your yes. I mean, I emailed you. I had been looking for someone to be able to impart into the ladies from a financial standpoint. And I just was like, Lord, lead me to someone that loves you, that has a heart for you, and that has a heart for the kingdom. And I was looking, and I saw your flyer in the chamber, in our private group space. And I was like, okay, Lord, I prayed about it. And, he led me to email you, and you immediately said yes. And so I thank you for your yes. And I am looking forward to learning the information that you will share with us on Saturday, March 14th. Thank you again. And we thank each of you for joining us tonight, for being a part of our conversation, as we talk about the building her from a financial standpoint. I love you all, and I look forward again to seeing you all on Saturday, March 14th. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Sheena.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.